Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to this week's episode of Woo Girl Radio with me, Lionheart Leo. Welcome to the Lionheart Pride. If you're new here, you are amongst friends. We talk everything spiritual, woo woo, self awareness, enlightenment, manifesting, all that good stuff, all the woo woo stuff that maybe you wish you could talk about with your friends. We are here to shed some light on all of those amazing subjects. So thank you so much for being here and being part of the Woo Girl family and the Lionheart Leo family. Make sure if you're tuning in on YouTube, you hit that subscribe, hit the bell, make sure that you're notified every time I upload a new video, and maybe share it with a friend. See if someone else might be interested in what we're talking about on here. If you're listening on Spotify or Buzzsprout, Stitcher, Apple Music, all of those good places, Google Play, please consider giving us a 5-star review or sharing with a friend so that more people can, grow in some light and love and feel the love and support that we are here offering every week for you. So I'm so excited to announce our guest this week. It is one of my dear friends, Anne Round, who has written a book. I got it right here if you're watching on YouTube. It's called The Essence of Truth, and it's inspirations for loving life. It's a collection of essays that Anne has put together and has released this year. So we talk a little bit about the book, but we really do talk about living from an authentic point of view, waking up, morning rituals, how we can supercharge our water for optimal health, how living authentically and using your intuition really benefits you. It's coming out at the perfect time because I have reopened my intuition bootcamp this week. So if you want to join bootcamp, we will link that in the description of this episode. And if you want to find Anne, you can find all of her info in the description of this episode, as well as where you can buy the book. So I'm so excited to get right into this week's episode. It feels like you're talking with an old friend, and it just feels really warm and loving and easy. So I hope you feel that too. Can't wait to get right into it. Know that I'm sending you from the deepest part of my being all of my love and light. And let's get right to it. With the magic. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. We are interviewing Anne Round today, who is an amazing light worker. She's walked many paths. She has been a healer pretty much her whole career, from my understanding, starting with physio and moving into light work, spirituality, light language, shamanism, past lives, all sorts of things. So she's really walked the path, I would say. And do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got into spirituality?
I've always been spiritual in some sense. I absolutely adored going to church as a kid. I used to take myself, my whole family had stopped going to church, and I took myself to church just because I liked the energy. I now know. At that time, obviously, I didn't know that, but it was a place where there was just to be able to hold and feel. I'm a really kinesthetic person, so I really feel a lot. And I could feel the energy of church and things. And then through my that was like, my childhood. And then in my teens, I did some, I was in Montreal. We had these little times off at school, and I did meditation, I did yoga, and those things weren't known in like 1975. They weren't common. And so I got a little exposure to all of those things then. And then going into physio as a healer and becoming a mom. And then I came to the point where I was a mom and I had an older parent, and my mom had actually died. So I had begun to face that. I had a significant spiritual awakening around her death. Mm-hmm. And then when I had three young kids and my dad, and I just felt like, I really need a place of calm. I need to figure out this. I also owned a small business, a physiotherapy business at the time. Mm-hmm. And I just began meditating. And I just, every night after I put the kids to bed, I would sit down on my pillow and I'd put some nice meditation music on, and I would just meditate. And I always felt better after. And then I began to realize that it was actually moving into my life more and more, and how it was affecting my life. And then I explored shamanic practice, did lots of reading. A lot of it was around health. Like, why don't people get better? Some Carolyn Meiss's work, and healing. Because I, as a physiotherapist, that was my primary interest at that time. And then it became into the shamanic thing because, you know, things aren't getting better beyond the physical things I was doing. What other ways can we access beliefs, conditioning, things like that? So, and then it just kept opening up into doing Reiki, doing sound healing. I began to speak light language. I did a bunch of hypnosis stuff, just all those things. And I'm just an explorer and a journeyer in this human condition of how we can bring in more love and light.
Totally. Oh, I love that. And I think that's such a beautiful point for anyone listening or watching right now is that like there is no one right path for people. I deeply believe that. And so like I love the explorative, like I'm gonna see if this works. And if I'm not feeling it anymore, like let's switch over to Reiki and let's switch over to light language and let's combine the two and let's do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I think leaning into the healing aspect of it is a really beautiful path into it. But um there's so many entry points into spiritual awakening. It's very interesting to me how that all plays out for people.
Yeah, and I think it shows our uniqueness and our diversity, that
Exactly.
we each are a unique form of the one love and light,
Mhm.
and that form is going to find its own path back in its return to the light. Is just each path will be completely different, and none of them are wrong. They're all right for the individual.
And doesn't that just feel better? Like when you get into those really rigid structures, it's like you have to do this, you have to, I don't know, meditate 12 hours a day or fast or this or that, and you're not feeling it. It just feels like rules and structure in the wrong way, you know? But when you can breathe and relax and find your own way into it, I think that's really where the magic happens, you know?
Oh, I totally agree. Magic is absolutely in allowing the space for magic to happen. And if we're on a rigid structure of must do, have to do, should do, then we are absolutely controlling where the magic can go, and it can't. It gets stifled, you know, and it
Totally.
just can't open and expand and be there. So it's really interesting. Right now, I'm really interested. I've been for probably about the last 8 years following the gene keys, which is a programming or a concept from Richard Rood, and it gives you a sort of a hologenetic profile like astrology would, and it's linked to astrology and the I Ching and things and lots of traditions. And it's so fascinating because it, to me, it opens up a venue for anybody. I started that program by just looking at the words for a year. I never even read anything about it, you know? And so just openness in our programs is so, so important. And yeah, and just on that note from the gene key thing, just to sort of wrap that up, is that Richard Rood really talks about the art of contemplation and how the art of contemplation is to carry it throughout your day and to
Mm.
pause and to just let things allow space for the magic. And you can't do that if you don't pause.
Oh, I love
So
that.
that's really thing. And so one of the things I used to do as a physio was every time in between patients, I would like wash my hands, obviously, because you're transferring patients. But I also realized that I was moving energy from one cubicle to the next or one patient to the next. And so by washing my hands and at the same time just asking for the energy to come in and clear everything out and just ground me once again before I move into the next client. It was a huge way of just stopping, pausing, and then moving into the next with a clearer energy and not melding things so that they're mixing in ways that, you know, they may or may not be the best thing to have happen. So
I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful practice. I think it can be applied to so many things like manifesting or like one of my favorite things to do is just like put my feet in a salt bath, wash my hands, splash water on my face. It doesn't have to be hard. It's just like setting your intention to like leave what you don't need behind and bring in, like you said, the new energy to a new project or client or space or section of your day, even. You know, like this is my morning coffee, this is my contemplation time, and now I'm gonna cleanse myself, wash my hands, move into the rest of my day, and even just shifting your energy with intention. It's just such a beautiful, simple practice that I think anyone could take on.
Absolutely. And I'm so into make it part of your day,
Mm-hmm.
because I just, my routine is really simple. I do say a few little prayers in the morning when I wake up, but I think that's a lot. I don't want to get out of bed, but I just quietly start my morning for 5 or 10 minutes. And then I would get up, and I always wash my face first thing in the morning. And it's just, again, it's just letting that water come on, just touching your skin, being with yourself for that moment. And it's only a moment. It takes like 2 minutes to wash your face. But that is a huge piece of just beginning the day, grounding into the day. This is where I am. This is who I am. And I love myself. I
Yeah.
do the I love you into the mirror in the morning thing too. So
It's so perfect. Yeah. Cause I think I don't mean this in a toxic way of like you have to like overcome depression or anxiety to therefore be spiritual, but I do think that loving yourself is actually the foundation of almost anything in life. And I don't think I could have spiritually awakened in the ways I have if I didn't do the self-love piece first, you know?
the
So,
self-love piece is essential.
yeah.
You just absolutely have to somehow come to the point where you love yourself. I don't say that you have to love yourself 100%,
Hmm.
because that's not true. But if you hate yourself 100% in some manner, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And you have to, even if it's like once a day, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm beautiful, then, or I have beautiful eyes. Okay. I mean, because in our world, we're so tuned about our looks, of course.
Hmm.
And certainly as I grew up, that was, you know, it's just part of it. The media is doing it to us. We're totally consumed by it.
Hmm.
So if we can look and just go, oh, you have beautiful eyes, or look at that smile. How beautiful is that to give to the world? So, and just to love those little pieces, or all parts. I mean, I sort of focus a little bit on the physical because that's what we see. We see our hands, we see our face, things like that. But then we need to move that into the emotional field and love our emotions that come up.
Hmm.
Oh, I judged that person. Oh, look how well I did that. Oh, I love how I judge. Oh, maybe I won't judge so much another time. But it's all just being light about it, just being light about it, and not sort of going, oh, I judged that person. This is awful. Just really bringing just that lightness into whatever we're doing and whatever we're thinking. Like, oh man, I really wanted to honk my horn at that guy. Wow, boy, I could have honked it so hard, but I didn't, because I'm going to not be worried about that.
Hmm.
No, and
Or
look at that.
right? Even if you do, being like, wow, I'm really passionate, you know? Like you can be like, I'm sorry, I love you to the guy, you know, like, oh, maybe that didn't make his day feel good, but you can still be like, wow, like I'm a really passionate person. Like I really care that people, I don't know, cross the street safely or drive safely. And it makes me angry when I feel like other people are threatened. What a positive aspect to bring. Like I care so much about the good for all. That made me mad. Oh, cool, you know? So there's
Yeah,
always, I think, a way to rephrase it where you're like seeing the love and the positivity, even if maybe you did act out of anger, you know?
yeah. And all of those things take practice.
Hmm.
It takes practice in our everyday life, moment by moment. We don't have to, sitting on our pillow is wonderful. And it just, for me, it brings in a huge level of calm, and it can let me sort things out and, whatever. But I'm sitting on a pillow all by myself in a room. That isn't why we're here on this earth. We're here to relate to people. And in relating to people, we're going to hit little bounces and bumps and things like that. And we need to love ourselves at those bumps and bounces are existing. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And loving ourselves through each of those moments is precious. It's feeling your own self as precious. And that's a good thing. And some people also, just to bring that, not all people can use the word I love you
Mm-hmm.
or for themselves. You know, so some things you might say instead, or I really respect how you handled that, or there, wow, I like the passion in that, as your example,
Mm-hmm.
or just any other word. To, you know, if you don't like the word love, don't use it. I do something with words. I
Mm-hmm.
change them. It's in my book, which we'll probably discuss later.
Yeah.
Um,
I have it
but
right here for anyone on the YouTube. You can see the cover there.
and I do something which is termed doing an acrostic, and I change the words so that I take the word love, for example, and I make it light of vitality everywhere. And
Mm.
suddenly that wording for me
Mm-hmm.
means that love is everywhere. Love is vitality, it's part of life. So I really find that then it just shifts the energy of that word. And I mean, this isn't my invention. I probably read it from Daniel Walsh about fear, oh dear, fear. No, I've lost what it was. So, but he's, false expectations appearing real is one
Yeah.
of the things for fear. Now there probably is another one for fear too, but it's whatever works for you, and it's play. The other thing I love about acrostics is that it's play.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes if I'm just out for a walk and I'll just sort of like play with the word, Another one that I've used a lot is God, because I had to, in my journey, not fix, shift
Yeah.
my perception of God as the guy in the sky that I learned about in church, right? And I was like, yeah, I just can't hold that one anymore. So what am I going to hold? And then I just moved it to grace of divinity.
Ooh, yeah.
And
That's so
for me,
beautiful.
it was so powerful because it's always there
Mm-hmm.
and it's divine.
Yeah.
And that's what we all are. And so that's how I shifted the God, the masculine image of God. Is,
Yeah.
and, it was interesting because at the time I could have more picked up, excuse me, goddess, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people were doing that. But I didn't choose to do that because I prefer the blend and the balance of both the masculine principles and the feminine principles that we live with in the world.
Yeah. Because I always see God as like the force that creates everything. Like my dad's a physicist, my brother's an engineer. I grew up in a very scientific household. Even my mom has a science degree and has background in biology. So I've always seen it once I got out of my like church camp days of like guy in the sky, like you were saying, as like just the force that created everything. Like what was before the Big Bang, that's God to me. Like I had a spiritual awakening working in a restaurant, polishing a candle holder, because I was comprehending on a deeper level that God is literally everything that exists. It's the building blocks to the universe. So I'm like, here I am, a piece of God standing on a floor. That is God. Polishing a candle holder. That is also God. And I just was like, this girl comes up to me and she's like, "You okay?" And I'm like polishing, so like spaced out and like having this huge spiritual epiphany like between the lunch and dinner rush. But yeah, it's like I think it takes a lot of the judgment out of it when we see the energy source, God, creator, as like just an energy that exists to explore and play. My theory, my working theory is God created existence and this idea of contrast and duality because it was bored being all powerful.
Absolutely.
Right? So like
Yeah,
learning to play and explore is just such a beautiful way to work on your divine essence, right?
it is because yeah. So my cosmology theory on God is very similar. So again, I use the terms grace of divinity because grace is a force.
Yeah.
An energy that's moving in the world, and so I see again that there was this you know energy that
Mm-hmm.
wanted to experience more than itself. when
Mm-hmm.
we're all in the same soup bowl of unified consciousness and of that and whatever the cosmos, the hugeness and vastness of what we are actually less defined. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't have, we may or may not have as much individualized experience, is what we kind of interpret it to be. So definitely coming here down to earth and being born is to experience, have an experience of experiencing experiences. And
Yeah.
that's what we're up to. And we're here, we might as well have fun doing it. My goodness. I mean, I know it's serious and but it's also delightful and
Mm-hmm.
playful and light and easy. It can be really easy. We can make it easier through our own attitudes and our own ways and things like that, so that we can have more experiences. But generally, yes, we're here to experience. And then after death we return to that more place of unified consciousness, or whatever you want to, what the universe, we
Yeah.
return to the universe. And then we reorganize, and then we come back to this earth and things like that, or to someplace else maybe, or whatever. I mean, that's all part of the mystery, which I enjoy to call God often too, is the mystery, because we're not quite sure how it's going to work in our life and where it's going to come from, and when it's going to show up. Yeah, like it just, that mysterious grace of you sitting there polishing the silver. You couldn't have said that morning when you woke up that that was going to happen. It just happens. It lands in us when it lands in us. And I also think that takes me into thinking about the seeker. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
to necessarily seek for that grace to be felt or seen or heard. It happens just by opening and opening and opening, and just letting go, like just creating more space.
Yeah.
We are actually a lot of space in us, and we just need to keep it open, keep it, that space open. And that brings me into like thinking about water too, because we're also a huge amount of water. And
Mm-hmm.
so by drinking good water, reasonable water, and by blessing our water before we drink it, which can make it reasonable if it's not reasonable, then we can fill our body with purity and fluid and flow, so that our world begins to flow too, so that we come into that flow place. That
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have in reaching distance. It's so funny. A bottle that I'm gonna fill with filtered water, but it has like love, joy, health, power, abundance, wealth, all these things on it. And like all you have to do really is put your intention into something. So I let it kind of sit in there in my glass bottle with my filtered water. But science has proven, like if you look at Dr. Emoto's work, that it changes the structure of water, um, to just even write a word on a container holding the water. Everything's
absolutely.
intention, right?
This is mine. This is a bottle of water. A very good friend of mine brought me back from Hawaii with no water in it. And
Mm,
it has aloha. It's distilled with aloha.
mm,
And it has some symbology in the Hawaiian Islands on it and things like that. And it just brings me right back into that space. And that's what I have this by my bed. I fill it at night and then I drink that first thing in the morning. I'm sort of one of those people that does the fair bit of water first thing in the morning and then gets on with the day, because again, I'm entering the fluids into me, and keeping everything clearer and things like that.
yeah. And it doesn't have to be hard. I think one of the things that really stuck with me after I met you was we were chatting as we do, and you said something about you don't need to travel the world that much anymore to seek enlightenment. Like you can get enlightened in your backyard. And we were sitting in your beautiful backyard at the time. And that's always really stuck with me of like, oh yeah, like it doesn't have to be like going out on a quest and seeing things and studying and meeting thousands of people from different countries and having these big expansive experiences, you can have a huge expansive experience sitting in your backyard. It can be really just that. Like, you can reprogram your water by just thinking about it for a second. It doesn't have to be like blessed by a priest or something. I'm sure the blessing wouldn't do it any harm. I'm sure it would also raise its vibration. But I see so many people put the power outside themselves. Oh, when I can go to Peru, or when I can go to ayahuasca, or when I can go to the Tibetan monks, or when I can do this, then I'll be enlightened. Then I can let God in. Then I can be spiritual. And it's like, no, like, you're spiritual already. Just like bless the water and drink it, you know?
Absolutely. Just do it yourself. You just, we all are part of God. We all are God alive on this planet. And so we all are, I'm going to say, grace of divinity.
Yeah.
And we, in that grace of divinity, if I am grace of divinity, then I can hold my water bottle in my hand, and then my water is that too. But it already is too, because it's water. So it's the concept of that everything, absolutely everything is, spiritual is the word, but I tend to go personally. I'm a little bit of a more of a science person with my background. So I tend to think a lot about energy. So it's all energy. And sometimes we can get caught up in that spirituality stuff. And again, that's that point of, I have to be spiritual. I would, or I'm never going to curse because I'm spiritual. Well, I don't find that's real, because
Yeah.
I curse, I've cursed, and I don't do it all the time, but, and I'm not, it's just that. But I might be mean to someone, and I'm not being unspiritual by being mean. It's something has happened, and the love I have to give to myself for having maybe been mean to someone or something like that. But yeah, I really do feel that we don't need to travel the world like we did. And I think our situation in the global position right now of
Yeah.
staying in place is sort of indicative of that. And in actual fact, there are a lot of people that are awakening through this period. Because they've had a moment to slow down and things like that. And so I think, we're seeing that shift. That shift is happening. It's an energetic shift that's occurring on the global level. And we're part of it. We're part of the wave. It's happening. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And we can be enlightened anywhere. I mean, years ago, I had traveled for going to shamanic workshops and things like that. And I just sort of said, oh, I just want to be enlightened at home.
Yeah.
And focusing on how at the time with younger children, how I am as a mother, how I am as a clinician, as a physio, and how I am as a neighbor, how I am as a wife, those things. And by introducing more loving kindness to myself, I saw how more loving kindness was given, radiated from me, emanated from me to my children, my husband, my neighbors, my garden, my everything. It just it starts with us, and right where we are, right here. It doesn't have to be fancy, and it doesn't have to. I think one of your things is it doesn't have to take long. I don't have to meditate for an hour. I don't have to bless that water for 10 minutes. I just set the intention and it happens. And
I think it's the accepting and receiving part that really makes it quick, because it's usually resistance that makes things go longer, you know? I kind
yeah,
of get this concept, but like, do I really? So I'm going to put up a resistance. Like, oh, I think I might be able to bless this water, but like, I got to do it for 10 minutes or else it won't work. Whereas if we just are like, it's done. I accept it. It's blessed.
yeah.
It's blessing me as I drink it. I feel so much easier and lighter and more playful, you know?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you could sing a song to it. if you like to sing, sing a song to your water, or to yourself, that for sure. I mean, I do that all the time. So.
Yeah. That's so perfect. Yeah, it's like really just like accepting your own power and putting the codependency to rest kind of thing. Like you don't need a priest to bless your water. You can do that yourself. You can come from an empowered stance. You don't need to necessarily travel and find other people to find enlightenment. You can go within. If you do get sparked by other people, that's beautiful and amazing. But the real alchemy comes from our own understanding and our own acceptance of things, I think. So you might say something that resonates, and I'm like, wow, what a great epiphany. But if I was closed off to it, it probably wouldn't work. It's all what's going on inside.
Absolutely. It's so much of it is resistance. That is what's going to slow or stop anything. That is, that works in physics too.
Yeah.
When we drop energy from the transformer in the street to come into our house, we have to put a resistor there to drop it down. So if you want to drop energy down to less, then put up some resistance. And if you don't want to drop that energy down and you want to keep it wide open, then remove the resistance. And I guess that's probably what I would think my personal practice has probably been my entire life, is looking at resistance that I have and will have, and saying, okay, hi, how are you? Why are you here? Where did you come from? And how can I love you? And, that might take depending on what the resistance is, might take some time, but those are simple things. And again, it comes back to accepting ultimately that resistance is part of me too. And it's part of love too.
Mm-hmm.
So often in retrospect, and it may take 5 years, it may take 10 seconds, we look back at some of our resistance and then we're like, oh, I'm really glad I didn't feel totally confident to say those words at that party, because at that party, if I had said that, I would have had to back it up with more proof that I don't have now. But now that I've read more things, I could actually say that thing, or, whatever. So we have to trust when we do actually have resistance to do something. We have to trust there may be somebody there that's not ready to hear those things, and we're not ready for their reaction. So then we just have to trust. So much of it comes down to acceptance and intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, intuition's so key. I started an intuition boot camp, and the whole premise of it is like it's a muscle that we can build over time. But essentially just like when you use intuition for everyday choices, like okay, what time do I want to wake up tomorrow if like you don't have a full morning, like okay, I'm gonna do that. Or maybe even like before that, you're like, oh, I have a meeting scheduled, but I really feel gross about that and I feel drained. Like maybe I can push that back, and using your intuition to check in with yourself and see what works. That's when the blessings start happening. That's when your manifestations get stronger. And that's when you really get into that state of flow and trust. Is you start to trust, oh, the universe has always shown me a sign when I ask. The universe always backs me up. The universe always brings blessings into my life if I'm acting in alignment with it and I'm asking for it and opening the door to it. So I think it's such a key element in like living a blessed life is trusting the universe, but trusting yourself too, and being bold enough to set intentions and then being bold enough to receive the intuitive messages that are pretty much always there for you.
Well
Yeah.
said. Well
Right?
said. Absolutely. And I think, the universe is always there for us because we are part of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the intuition. I mean, I would have said that learning to trust my intuition was the hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
That was the spot that once I really dropped into that, then I would have said things began to move faster, and just, yeah, it got the ball rolling, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
much more. But that was essentially, and I mean, a lot of us are really, as children, we're very intuitive, and it is kind of bred out of us or conditioned out of us.
Yeah.
So we do have to learn how to do that again often. And, but we all know about listening to our gut and, what is your heart saying, listening into your body. There's more and more research out there about what's happening at our solar plexus level, that there's the second brains there, how the vagus nerve connects from into that area and has huge innervation and huge messaging back and forth from our brain. And so that it's bringing in a lot of the information coming into us is coming in through our body and then into our brain, and then brain reacts and then body reacts. And I mean, it's a cycle. So just knowing that that's where that comes from, and knowing where, we all learn how our intuition works, but it's asking the questions too. It's also wanting to,
Yeah.
it's also having that desire, that willingness to look, that willingness to explore, that willingness to say, well, like, yeah, I'd like to learn more about intuition. How am I going to do that? Oh, well, I'll listen to my body a bit, or read a book on it, or listen to one of your TikToks or things like
Yeah.
that. There's so many sources of information for people these days. We're so blessed to have access to so much information. And then you'll need to choose which information. And that's where your intuition comes in. You suddenly pull in your intuition, you go, oh, and your intuition can react in many ways, but it's believing it and listening to it. So like, oh, wait a minute, I don't like that person's voice. I'm going to listen for another 5 minutes, but if I still don't feel comfy here, I'm not really going to take in much more of that.
Yeah. And I always say that.
That's,
go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Oh, I always say
So
that
just to.
So cute. Okay, I'm gonna actually let you speak.
So when we're making that, like, we would sometimes think that's a judgment on that person, but we're not. We're discerning whether the resonance of that person resonates with our energy. So does their energy and our energy work together? Is it going to lead to less resistance or more resistance? It's just that is where, those are the sorts of questions to just be asking. But in our world, we do get really hooked on this judgment piece. And, but thank God we have judgment, because if we didn't have judgment, we might walk out in front of a car. There are some really important parts. And I mean, I do like the word discernment a bit more than judgment. Yet, the truth is that sometimes I judge. And I think I need to accept that and let that be. And if I've made a judgment that is not accurate, what I find is the universe just brings the same thing back to me. Like if I decide that this person's voice doesn't really resonate with me, then the universe will present me with another option to learn that thing that he or she was going to teach. So.
Totally. I think that's so true. And when we breathe into that openness, then we're open to the next option, like when we get stuck in that place of judgment, it's like we put our blinders up and we just are like, no.
Exactly.
But being like, yeah, I judge sometimes, and like it's okay if I don't like that person's voice, like not everything's for me, that just feels easier, and we can just like move on, like you acknowledge it and you move on. You're like, this is not mine, move on. Yeah.
That's right. And especially when we're seeking information.
Yeah.
If we're just in a group of people and we don't like someone's voice, that's a whole nother, that's okay. Then you go, I wonder why that voice is like just setting me off or something, So, I mean, it's an interesting example, because I do find voices very, for me, are very significant. It's as the frequency coming out of somebody's voice really can show you if they're closed down, can show you if they're happy, or, just a bunch of things. So for me, voice has always been really something. You don't get it as much on text. So, but, I grew up with phone calls, and you could hear it always on the phone call. So,
totally. Yeah. And that's so interesting, because I would identify a little bit more as like clairsentient and claircognizant for like my primary kind of intuitive sense. So for me, it's like a vibe. Like if I walk into a room and I don't like someone's vibe or it feels uncomfortable or it's like negative in some way with how I'm interacting with it, that's what really hits me. So like it's interesting that for you, it's the resonance of the voice that is kind of how you discern things. But for me, it's like, how am I feeling in this moment? Like, what do I just intuitively know or feel in my gut? Like,
Yeah.
so I think that's so interesting that we essentially are having a very similar experience of like, this person's for me, this person might be bringing not an energy I like, so maybe not right now, kind of a thing. But it's such a different way of getting there. So I just want to validate for anyone who's listening, like it doesn't have to be a voice, it doesn't have to be a vibe. It could be you get a taste in your mouth when you're around certain people or you smell something that isn't there. So um, when we go back to judgment, like don't judge your process, just lean into whatever your process is. You're
Yes.
unique, yeah. But that's so cool. I never take into consideration people's voices, because it's just not like my way of looking at things. But I love that that's like instant for you. You just know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, again, we're talking back to the diversity and uniqueness of each and every one of us. And it's so beautiful. And we just need to honor our own ways, you know, and they may change and they
Yeah.
may expand, and it's all good. It's all good, good, good news. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, try not to judge yourself if you're listening about how you get your information. Just try and lean into like, what am I feeling right now? Is this a taste thing? Is this a scent thing? Is this a visual thing? Like, is this a feeling thing?
yeah.
Because there's a part of you that knows and it's trying to tell you through your senses. So
Yeah. And you're learning to trust that part. And we
exactly.
use the word intuition for that part.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I would love to actually talk about your book as well. It's called Essences of Truth, Inspirations for Loving Life. And I feel like the story I got was that like you kind of intuitively knew you had to write this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew years ago that I would write a book, yeah, and then was just like, so books have always kind of flowed through, and I was like, am I supposed to write a physio book? And then nothing happened, and then probably 2 or 3 years ago, I guess now, um, I got the call. I got
Mhm.
the call that it's time to write your book, and oh boy, did I ever resist it. And
As we do.
as we do.
As we do.
And I sort of made some attempts and wrote some stuff. And, I had a lot of stuff I had to work through as I wrote, because just from past conditioning of, I'm not very good at this or whatever.
Hmm.
And then about 6 months after I'd first sort of got this little, like, you should write a book. And the first indication for my book was who to write it to. And it was to be written to my unborn grandchildren, which was interesting because it then really indicated to me, this is information, this is a bit about my life, this is guidance in some, and wisdom in some form.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I met this woman when I was out walking, and she'd written books. And she was a naturopath, and she'd written books. And I was there saying, oh, I'm sort of like thinking about writing this book, and it's going to be blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh, wow, you have to write this book. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting goosebumps. You really need to write this book. Another intuitive form is goosebumps for some people. And so
Or strangers talking to you too. Strangers having divine advice. Yeah.
yes, true.
Yeah.
And so so I sat down again and wrote a bit more. And so I just sort of kind of collected things. And then, it was really not going anywhere and much, very slowly, probably a year now had passed. And I then really came to it that because of who I am and my shamanic world and my belief in energy, that I really needed to approach this from an energetic point of view.
Hmm.
And I needed to begin to love the project instead of fear the project, was a big turning point for me. So I ended up again just purely by, synchronicities and coincidence that I got on my treadmill and it was like, I need something to listen to, and boom, and there was somebody talking about writing a book, and they were doing shamanic practices, to journeys to go and get more information. And so I did that. I really then took it from a more energetic point of view and went, so is this really needing to be done? Da da da. And that was that. It was, yes, get on with it. And so then again, I fiddle farted around for quite some time, and not overly. I mean, in 3 years, I produced a book, so I'm really quite proud of myself for that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But it was. So again, I sort of fiddled. I played with it and I thought about it, and then I just sat down and said, I actually said, it's Mercury retrograde for the next 4 weeks. And Mercury retrograde is about taking care of old business sometimes. This is getting to be old business. Get on with it. It was summer. I sat on my deck every day. I made myself sit down in a chair on the deck, and I typed every morning for an hour or two, and then I edited it late that afternoon. And then the book was done. And then you go into all the editing and things like that. But the whole journey has been overcoming resistances. Okay, why am I resisting now? And some of those resistance would be about timing of when the book was to come out. I ended up publishing the book, March 21st of 2020. And this is just as we've all in the whole world been shut into our homes. And, it's probably the worst. You think, oh, okay, worst time ever. But it was perfect. It was it needed to move into the world then. And the other piece with the book that I found, I really had to also detach from my emotional sort of commitment to the book. And so I did things like, I completely emotionally committed while I was writing and everything. But afterwards, I had to sort of start to take a stance that this is information for the world. And I need to just take it less personally. So I kind of I gave the book, it has another name. I call it Ren. And so I actually sort of moved it a little bit outside of myself so that it could have a bit more freedom in its own right. So it's it's been a fun project in the end, but there was definitely lots of angst and I had to do, at times I'd hit a resistance and I'd have to talk to somebody and get some confirmation, validation that I'm on the right path. Having support, friends supporting you or whatever through any sort of process is so valuable. And I really feel like the book, especially when it came to editing, I had these friends that would read it and stuff, and it was just so wonderful. So it feels like it was a village that created this book in some ways. And I'm very pleased with it, and I've been very pleased with the reactions to it. And it has most people who've read it have said I've really come away with some information, and that's all I guess I want. And so it's full of energy, of lots of love and light. And that was certainly, I made sure as I wrote and editing and things like that the intention of this being a loving book that held positive energy for the world, for humanity, was very much my intention. So.
I love that it's essays too, because it makes it very palatable and digestible. Like if you just want a little boost of wisdom or energy, like you say, you can pick it up and flip through it, and it says, belonging or an idea that you're like, oh, I need to read that right now, or you can pick it up and do cover to cover. So it's a really beautiful, easy, light way to level up a little bit, get a little bit more wisdom.
Yeah, it's very much, you can sit down and read it from cover to cover, or you can just take little sips of it. And I know people have done both and enjoyed it in both their ways because of who they are, and that's great. And you can just have it by your bedside and open it up and read a little bit each night. Or whatever. And I find I come back to it because I've written it, it's done. And I'm sort of like, oh, well, I forget what I've written and exactly. And so I do that. I leave it by my bedside and I open it every once in a while and have a little just, oh, let's just open it to this page and see what's talking to me today. And yeah, so I like that part. And the cover is my own artwork, which is nice. And
Yeah. For the
yeah,
YouTube people, I'll hold it up right now so you can see the beautiful artwork. If you're listening on a podcast, I will link it in the description so you can find it. But yeah, it's beautiful. I love the colors and it's so expressive too. So very
yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good journey, and I had a lot of healing from doing it. So
Yeah.
sometimes when we do these big projects, we, you don't really realize how much benefit you're going to get from doing that project, but it's real and it opens you up more, and that's so exciting.
Yeah. And I think so many people who follow me and listen and follow along with Lionheart Leo, a lot of them are doing creative things and a lot of them maybe get stuck sometimes of like, oh, I want to open an Etsy shop or I want to do a spiritual business or write a book or do something outside the like 9 to 5 structure of like you go to work. But I think a lot of the time fear gets in the way. And I think this is such a beautiful example of just take the next thing, like clear the next little piece of resistance, lean on your community for support. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 in a few days, you know? You don't have to know how to write a book to start writing a book. You can do that as you go, right? Same with
Oh
the business.
yeah, same with the business. Like, I mean, it's so interesting. Just this past week, I ended up yeah, I put something up on Amazon right away and things like that. But somebody sent me a link to a webinar on optimizing your Amazon page or something. And
Mhm.
so, like, I mean, we're talking what, 8 months later, and I'm suddenly right back in it, going, okay, how do I do this? What do I do? Oh my goodness! And yet, a week later, I've achieved that, and I put my focus on it, and I've overcome the fears, and you
Mm.
know, and you do it. But there is very much things will happen in their own time and space. It will evolve along, and I do often say you just can't push the river,
Yeah.
and sort of having a little bit of an inclination of when I'm trying to push the river and when I'm not is is a valuable piece of information for yourself as you move into new things and stuff. And
Yeah.
and I think the world is becoming more creative. I think that as we shift into a higher frequency of loving energy in the world, what it brings is greater creativity.
Hmm.
And so we are going to see more and more diverse ways of being in the world and working in the world. And I mean, we've seen it in the last 20 years. It's just going to expand, and it's so exciting. How are people going to be, and the options, and that people can make a living doing things in a very different way. We don't have to be all doing exactly the same way, and we don't have to follow the customs and traditions of everybody. I owned my own physiotherapy business for 10, 12 years or something. But I only worked part-time. I only worked clients half the day because I had 3 young kids, and that was my choice. And that's how I did it. And boy, it worked so well for me.
Hmm.
And I know everybody can't do that, but that was different. Most physios would have been going like, yeah, I got to work 9 to 5. I got to do it. I got to do it. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I did it. I just sort of did it my way. And I mean, the universe again supported me and helped me to be able to do it my way. But it was, you do need to make that commitment to yourself and to love yourself enough to take and leap. And, doing the book was that. Do I love myself enough to put myself out there quite vulnerably into the world?
Hmm.
And it's been great. I'm so glad I've done it. And
Yeah.
when so often we look back and we go, oh, thank goodness I did that, yay.
Yeah. For sure. That's exactly how I feel about my business because I started my business around the time you launched your book, which is interesting in and of itself. But yeah, it's like I was so scared, didn't think I could do it on one level, like how do you pay your bills creatively and on your own? But you just gotta like with the Amazon thing, like you don't have to know how to post on Amazon properly. You just have to know how to ask for help or how to find a webinar or how to Google something or you just have to know how to do the next step and then the next step and then the next step. So I
Yeah.
didn't know how to code a website when I started. Like I didn't know how to put a booking system on my website. And if I put my whole to-do list in front of me, I would have never started. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start a TikTok account because that's apparently the best advertising right now. And I'm going to learn how to do that. And then after that, I'm going to learn how to code a website. And it just step by step, you write your book chapter by chapter, you learn how to find an editor, but if you're worrying about an editor at the first stage, you might never write that first page. So I think it's a beautiful testament to love yourself enough to start, but just start, figure it
Yeah.
out as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with all of the creativity. If you want to paint, buy some paints. Just
Mhm.
make the time and space and just paint. Put some paint on some canvas or on a piece of paper or whatever, and all these things, we do get better at them if we continue to do them. There's, just no question about that. The more we do anything, we will improve. So, you have to trust that and trust yourself. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
And trust your intuition if you've gotten everything you can from it, You don't have to do every hobby you pick up for the rest of your life. You can paint for a little bit and then if it's not your thing anymore, put it down, And maybe you pick it up again later. But
oh, yeah,
everything enjoyable doesn't have to be the end game, You can
that's
just
right.
enjoy things for the sake of enjoying them. But when you have that drive and passion, like you were saying, to write the book, like you felt divinely guided on one hand, you wanted to write a wise anthology for your grandchildren, your future grandchildren, right? Like that's such a beautiful motivator, I think. So of course we would follow through with those sorts of things when they're really deeply rooted, right? If you're like, oh, I want to learn, I don't know, like line drawing, and then you're like, oh, this is kind of boring. Like, don't follow through with that. That's fine. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And that is absolutely the truth, because yeah, the universe knew how to motivate me for the book, because
Mm-hmm.
motivating me through children and family and future. I'm very a lot of my energy is here for the future and for the trust
Mm-hmm.
that the future has potentials of greater cooperation and love and kindness happening in the world to bring more of the positive things of being human available, and our interconnectedness and things like that, versus what we're seeing, the different things we're seeing in the world now that are just coming to the surface because there is so much love pushing it up. And
Mm-hmm.
we know that. And but the future it's just really important for me that we hold a, just a very gentle hold on the future of more love, not less. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I hold it. So I'm not putting a lot of specifics on it, but that's how our world is, you know, going to be. In my opinion, it's going to be. It's going to be that we all move into more love for ourselves, and more love for everybody else will just automatically happen as we do that. And,
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of energy supporting us right now to do that too. I think since that big shift in 2012, a lot of people refer to it like the end of the Mayan calendar, which is really the end of ages, not the end of the world, is my understanding of it.
yeah.
So shifting out of the age of Pisces and more into the age of Aquarius on an astrological level, but really just like shifting the energy to, like you said, more love, not less. So yeah, but I think there's a lot of fear going around in a lot of the spiritual communities of like, am I shifting to 5D fast enough? Like, am I going to get left behind? My husband doesn't believe what I believe. Am I going to get taken to 5D and he gets left behind? I don't want to lose him, like all this sort of stuff. And I think it's a collective thing. I think it's a vibration thing more than, like the ships are going to come and
Oh
only
yeah.
the enlightened people get on them kind of
No,
thing. Like
no,
that
no,
seems to
no.
me like the least 5D thing we can do. Like you're
Absolutely.
chosen, you're not, you're cool, you're not.
I mean, that just comes back to human. That's the humanness in us making up those stories. The truth is, and my truth is that we are all divine and we are all that frequency and love. We are all going to shift. Some will resist more than others. So their shift will not happen necessarily as rapid as another one. Um, but we are shifting as a collective because the energies are changing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody outside coming to save us or to condemn us either.
Yeah.
It's us. We are the ones for ourselves to make this change. And the change is to shift into a higher frequency of energy within your resonance. And the word we use for that, or many people use for that, is love.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we're doing. And yeah, there was a big shift in 2012. It's probably taken, this year is another shift. There's a lot of astrological stuff that is coming. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people didn't feel the shift in 2012 because
It was subtle, hey? I
it's
remember
subtle.
meditating on that moment. Yeah. And it just was like, I could feel it, but I could tell anyone who was just like living their life probably wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when energy shifts and changes, it comes in, but it takes transitional time. And transitions always take longer than we expect. Nothing,
Mm-hmm.
it's, we're not just, the world isn't going to disappear. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to be what it is, but there will be gradual changes. I mean, we can look back in history and we see that. I mean, a lot of you will not really remember what an old telephone looks like, but an old telephone, other than maybe when you played with one as a child. um, but the old telephone, well, before even the telephone that I'm thinking of, there was a telephone on a wall and it was to a group call and you had to sort of crank it. And
Mm-hmm.
then a thing that you held up to your ear totally differently. And
Yeah.
we went into sort of the handset with the cord attached to a big black box. And look where we are now.
Yeah. On Zoom. I'm on my phone right now. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's like amazing. And so these are the way things change. So we can look at the history of change
Mm-hmm.
and be like, wow, we did that. It was fine. It worked. And it's kind of fun to look back. And here we are with this. So change does have an evolutionary timing that
Yeah.
we need to flow with. And that
Mm-hmm.
in your creativity is the same thing. You need to flow with the divine timing of what is occurring also. And yeah, so it's changing. It's absolutely changing in my personal opinion, and we're moving along just as we should. And I have so much confidence in the world and what is out there, and the people. I have so much confidence in people and humanity. We are a
Yeah.
beautiful species. We are
Mm-hmm.
vast. We are beautiful. We are capable, and when we put in willingness, but we have that because we were willing to come here. We were willing to come and do this experiment of being human and experience, allowing divinity to experience more experiences. That
Yeah.
we are that. We are who we are looking for.
Yeah. And I think even on a global level, like seeing the pandemic and seeing over the last like 10 years or so, even all the political movements that have been coming up in the Western world, like there's the Me Too movement, there's been a couple rounds of Black Lives Matter movements. They've constantly been a movement, essentially, like feminism, racism, all these things are not new concepts. So like people have been doing the work, people have been trying to decolonize for since we got
colonized since like North America was colonized, you know, or wherever you are that's being colonized. But like, it's like we're bringing everything to the surface, like all the scandals in the Catholic Church with like the abuse going on there and all these things. Like, it's awful to look at, but they were happening anyways. So I think that bringing them to the light and talking about them, it's like this mass clearing and this mass healing. And we still have a lot of work to go, but I think it's a mass healing that's happening. Even 2020 staying in your house for maybe a little too long for a lot of people's comfort. Like, what a beautiful time to reflect and reflect on where your life is, and you know, the people who don't have healthcare. What a scary time to not have healthcare, but like, what a beautiful way to shine light on things that need fixing, right? So it's like scary on one hand. It's okay to have feelings about that, but I
Absolutely.
think in terms of the mass awakening that's essentially happening, like, we need to move through these stages and clear it out and love on it, and help our neighbors, help people who might seem different than us, love those people so that we can make it to that less judgmental, more loving, beautiful future that we're all holding in our mind's eye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the statement is that we're bringing to light all these things. It's so, so I tend to think of it as the light pouring in, moving things up to the surface. And here we are, we're looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, looking at them and changes being made, and step by step, it's step by step, and trusting that that is what's happening. And, you know, I always come back to, if you really tune into the negativity on this planet and you're thinking in the shape of a pie, a circle,
Mm-hmm.
it's only a small wedge.
Yeah.
When I tune in, there's only a small wedge. Most people absolutely, are kind to their neighbors. There is the small wedge,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But our media shows us so much about that wedge and so little about this rest of this beautiful circle of humanity. And you can find all that beauty in the world, in the media. It's out there, but it's harder to find. And so,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's how making discerning choices of what we're going to take into our systems and what we're going to believe and hear and see. And so I mean, I know that I live in a community of people, a very diverse community from
Mm-hmm.
many backgrounds, and it's a very calm and beautiful place to live, and the people are all lovely. They are
Mm-hmm.
all lovely. you know everybody has had a similar life. Everybody seems to have brought children up and things like that, but they've all loved their children. They've all had moments with their children, and they love life, and you see that, and they're taking care of themselves. They're going for walks. They're doing what they can and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think people, I do really feel that we can do that. And we just need more and more of that, and examples of that, and letting that love shine. Let that love light come up. Let the light, let everything be brought up to the light, so
Yeah.
that we can look at it and forgive ourselves and have gratitude for what we have, and move along in those, walking in those things. I always, when I go for a walk, I always walk, and I do a little practice of, as I step, I'll go peace, love, and joy. So with each step, so I step one step, peace, love, joy, and then it shifts to the other foot, peace, love, joy, so that there's always this balance of what I'm putting out there. It's on both sides of me and things like that. And I think when we can walk like that in the world all the time, then you know all good things happen and come
Yeah.
forward.
And you can make such a personal difference in terms of like helping wake other people up, helping bring more joy and love to the world. Like, if you see something that isn't of love and light, you can bring your love and light into that situation and probably positively affect it, like if we all took personal responsibility for our own communities, um, and like decided to love and give as much as we could to others while still filling our own cups, I think we would solve most of the world's problems instead of judging other people. If we were like, hey, how can I help you today? How can I be a little bit more loving? Maybe it's just
Mhm.
smiling at someone on the elevator, or I mean, I guess with masks it's harder right now to just smile, but you can smile with your eyes, or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
beam some love at them. And
I try
if
and
you
make my
see,
eyes sparkle.
yeah, exactly. Like shine that love out, smizing, as Tyra Banks used to say on Top Model. But yeah, it's like you can choose how you show up in every moment. And if all of us decided to be loving to our neighbors, loving to the strangers around us, um, treating others with respect and not judging people too quickly before we get to know them, like most of those prejudices and violence would probably go away if we held space for other people with love. What's your
Absolutely.
experience? What are you going through? How can I love you and support you more,
Yeah, yeah. And we don't actually have to necessarily do something. We
Yeah.
we can use our energy of sending the love. Like we can smile and things like that. But we can also even, if I hear an ambulance going by, I send out loving light to the driver, to the person, to the whatever the situation. Obviously, I have no idea what it's about, and I
Mhm.
just send that out. The same, if I hear something on the other side of the world, I just send a bubble of pink light or something like that to that area. And I trust that's contributing to the resolution and positive outcome of that, and more love, not less.
Yeah. I
So
do that when I'm stopped at
that's
red lights with like homeless people or people who are asking for change and I might not have anything to give to them. I'll just sit there and beam them with love or pray for them. Like,
yeah.
Archangel Michael, can you bring them some blessings right now? Can we like raise their vibe? Can we make them feel a little safer in this world? And I'll watch their demeanor shift and then the light changes and I have to drive off. But it's
Yeah,
simple. All you have to do is just love them and just
yeah,
send it to them. So I love that you do
yeah.
that.
And it's sending the blessings, just saying, bless you, and
Yeah.
I think sending blessings is a beautiful way of going through life. And we don't actually understand how significant blessings are, but they
Hmm.
can shift things in huge way,
Yeah.
huge way. Just blessings and compliments and smiles. And, we don't have to, you know, go and save the world by, whatever method, although many of us think we should.
Hmm.
But the way forward is to be your most radiant self. And,
Yeah.
and just
And
enjoy.
like someone's going to take care of each individual thing, so you don't have to take it all on yourself. Like there's specialists in certain areas, there's people who are going to get that divine calling to help fix certain things. So that's, I think, again, where intuition comes in, where I'm like, I can't do everything, so I'm going to do what I'm being called to do to help humanity. And if we all did that, some of us would want to volunteer at soup kitchens, some of us would want to volunteer women's shelters. Some of us would sit at home and raise the vibe and energy of the planet and never be recognized as doing anything, but they would be contributing to the energy of the planet. Some
Mm-hmm.
of us would go pick up garbage on the beach. And if we all just did what we were divinely called to do, I think, we'd fix it really quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that calling is such a good way of putting it too. That, we are called to do certain things and we know.
Hmm.
And if you don't know what your calling is, that's when you need to start sitting down and looking at the resistances and things like that. And you'll find it. And I think the other thing you said is that some of our callings are to simply be love. And I do think, the monks in the Himalayas sitting and praying for us is amazing. Like, it's really nice that they're there praying for us all the time. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Things like that. So there's so much happening that is beyond our understanding, and it's part of that mystery. And it's but it's juicy and it's great and it's passionate and it's who we are.
Yeah.
So
And when it goes back to that self-love piece, like if I'm loving myself enough to take care of myself, to drink my water, to sleep enough, to handle my meat suit so that I can go be a spiritual being out in the world. Like when I was serving, if I was aligned, I would show up to work and beam love at anyone who came into my section, you know? I'd be my most loving self to them. And I was like, that's light work. Like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to be as kind as possible and love people as much as possible and infuse love into their coffee, you know, like, and
Absolutely.
that's a beautiful thing. When it wasn't my thing anymore, the universe made it very clear, like, girl, stop, you know, like, no, whole pandemic manifested, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but like, you don't have to be a certain member of society to shine your light. You can be a garbage man and like be the best gosh dang garbage man there is, you know, shine your light to every house you go by. Put the garbage cans back with grace and ease, with like love
Mhm.
and precision, right? Put
Mhm.
it out of where the wind would blow it over. You can be a McDonald's worker, you can be a physio, you can be a politician, like whatever your calling is, just bring your own love and respect and joy to it. And you're going to shift people around you, you know?
Absolutely. And bring your whole divine self. It
Mhm.
just, it comes along. I mean, that's, you know, to me, when we talk about enlightenment and things like that, it really is just bringing in more and more of the vast divine self that we are into this human condition and human body and human energy system. And it's, yeah, a beautiful way to move in the world. And we all can do it. And, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so full circle to where we started this chat is, you know, like we all carry it within us. You can meditate, you can do whatever you need to do, but really like self-love and contemplation's at the core of it, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Knowing,
if you don't
being
know,
able to say I love you to yourself,
mhm.
and to just observe the world with awareness, and then, you know, see what beliefs you're holding about what you're seeing, and then making choices. We always have choices. We always have a choice to be how we are, and to change how we are, or to, you know, backpedal and try again. We have so much choice, and so for me, I choose love.
Yeah.
It's been a good choice, I'll tell you. My life has been pretty amazing when you make that choice and change that. And not that I didn't have it in me before, but
Mhm.
more consciously choosing, I am going to approach this situation with love. It's amazing what happens.
Yeah, because even I talk about this a lot, but when I had a house fire a few summers ago, like I was thrown into a mess. I didn't listen to my intuition. That's how I even got in that situation. But because I was showing up to my serving job, trying to be the best version of myself always, I made friends with a police officer when I had a speeding ticket, and it was an unjust speeding ticket. So he helped me fight the court system to get
Mm,
to get it revoked because they weren't using the right laser gun. Like it was unjust kind of thing. I would have just paid it otherwise. When I had the fire, there was a fire chief sitting in my section every morning when no one else was in the restaurant, and I even cried on him one day because I was so stressed out. But like he gave me all the information I needed to like deal with the insurance company and told me I wasn't being crazy about wanting the asbestos tested in the room. And
mm,
he had experienced asbestos firsthand. And he's like, no, like you're not being too sensitive. These are the scientific facts. And it was like because I would shine my light to others when I needed it back, they always showed up. It was like clockwork, you know?
yeah,
So yeah, it's like when you do that, it's amazing the blessings that come through too, right?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, and
Mm.
certainly I feel like I live a blessed life. And I know I live a blessed life.
Yeah.
I know I live a blessed life. And I know that I radiate and emanate love into the world by being me. And
Mhm.
me is part of the divine.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah. So anyone who's listening, I challenge you to just be the most loving version of yourself today. So whether that's taking time for yourself and setting boundaries, or, you know, being the best version of yourself, just being really nice to a Starbucks worker, or just smiling, or just blessing others without even doing anything, just see what it brings. It's really fun. It's back to that fun game concept of creation and exploring, right? Challenge yourself.
Creativity, creativity,
Yeah,
have fun,
exactly.
enjoy, you know, be happy, be loving, be honorable, be respectful,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Watch.
and have a beautiful life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, I feel like I've taken up a lot of your time by this point. So do you have any like final thoughts, or where can we find you if we want to find your book? I'll of course link it in the description, but how can
Um,
people catch up with you? What would you like people to know?
so the best place to get me is probably through my website, which is essencesoftruth.com. And you can find the book through there. You can find the book through Amazon. And the link will be put up, I'm sure, which will be good.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I just have confidence in yourselves, everybody. Trust your
Mhm.
journey, and just lots of love on yourself. And you'd be amazed how that love then shows up everywhere in your world. And just
Yeah.
trust your journey, trust yourself, trust your intuition. And I love you. I love you all. It's so great. And thank you, Leona. This has been a
Yeah.
delightful time to talk to you again.
Same.
And
Yeah.
keep on doing what you're doing, because you're doing a fabulous job of it.
You
And
too.
I love you too.
I love you too. We all love you.
Hey, beautiful souls. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together and with Anne. It feels like a true gift to be able to spend some time with her, talking about her journey through light language and physio and running a business, being a mom, how she wrote those essays for her future grandchildren, which I just think is such a beautiful sentiment, but it's also wisdom for the world. So if you want to get a copy of Anne's book, Essence of Truth, you can find it in the description of this episode, or you can also order it from most bookstores in Victoria, BC. I'll make sure that all of that is linked below so you can easily find it if you'd like to check it out. And Anne's website will also be listed down there. If you want to join boot camp, I would absolutely love to work with you. It is meant to be an introductory course, but it is also something that you can go back to time and time again. Even as I was creating the course, I felt my intuition up leveling as I went through the exercises myself, or just held the space for those in the first round of boot camp. So we'll be doing live calls. We have a private community of other people who have already been through boot camp or are just joining now. And it's really fun to be able to have that space and that support of a group of people going through the same thing. And it's a great place to bounce ideas off one another. So the point of living an intuitively based life is really just so that you can get in the flow of manifesting and get in the flow of what your purpose is, and just really help you make the highest and best decisions so you can get on your highest and best timeline. So if that's something that interests you, I would love to work with you. No pressure. You can find that in the description of wherever you're listening to this to. And just know, from the deepest part of my being to the deepest part of yours, you are so loved and so appreciated. I'm so happy you're here on the planet right now with us. So thank you so much for being here, for shining your light, for up-leveling your love every single day. And just know that I super appreciate what you're bringing to this world at this time. So sending you so much love and light. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on next week's episode. Sending you love and light, friends. Have a wonderful week.